downtown Vancouver. This is The Christy Clark Show. Now, here is your host, Christy Clark.
With the provincial election just weeks away, we are convening debates between candidates in the ridings where we think it could be hard-fought and heated. I'm joined by Cash Heed, he's the BC Liberal candidate, Gabriel Yu, who's the NDP candidate, and Jodie Emery, who's the BC Green Party candidate, all in the riding of Vancouver-Fraserview. Many thanks to all three of you for joining me today.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, Cash Heed, you are taking over this riding from Wally Opal, who's moved out closer to his home in Tawasin. You have been, you're a star candidate for the Liberals. Much of the discussion, though, has focused on where you would take the Liberals should you be elected when it comes to drug policy. You were very vocal in favor of legalizing drugs when you were.
Well, I never said legalizing. I said we have to look at it in a different way, that we need to take a balanced approach to dealing with the drug issues, where in fact we had to make sure we put the traffickers in jail, people making a profit from the sale of these illegal drugs, but on the other end, ensuring that reducing the demand, we're preventing people from using drugs, we're treating people that are on drugs. So I've always advocated for a balanced approach to dealing with this issue.
Have you advocated, though, for loosening the laws on legal, so that more drugs are legal or fewer are criminalized?
Well, number one is I actually wrote a thesis on this, too, at Simon Fraser University. I've testified in front of the Senate Committee and the House of Commons Committee with respect to that. And there's options you need to consider. You need to consider whether prohibition is working, and we know some of the results of our current prohibition laws. You need to consider whether we legalize it and go to a regulatory market, whether that would work. Or you need to look at something right in the middle. You need to determine whether or not we can decriminalize some of those drugs in order for us to get enhanced treatment on certain things. We don't need to criminalize everything, but we're not at the extreme end of the continuum for regulation and legalization, and we have to look at whether or not prohibition is working. Now, if we're going to look at that balanced approach, you got to remember this is a whole supply and demand economics here. Reducing the demand is the key to it, and making supply as difficult as possible is the other key to it. So it's a balanced approach to dealing with the problems we have around the drug industry.
And if some were going to be decriminalized, which ones?
Well, certainly the discussions, you just have to go back to Ledane in 1973. You just have to go to Nolan, all the research that's been done on that, and the discussion is around marijuana right now. But really, at the end of the day, you have to determine whether society is willing to accept the fact that we go to this decriminalization. Now, we have an enormous amount of people in Canada. I think the General Social Services survey is saying 28% of the population of Canada have tried marijuana. I think we're about 11 to 13% of the population is actually using marijuana. So you have to look at whether or not you're going to take that large group of people and criminalize them, or you can look at different ways of dealing with it. Look at decriminalization. Look at civil penalties for people that are found in possession of marijuana versus criminalizing them. We need to put the right criminals in jail. We need to put these drug traffickers, these gangsters, those type of individuals in jail. But on the other end, we have to reduce the demand.
And you're very passionate about this issue, Cash Heed. So if you were elected and you were a part of a BC Liberal government, would you take a leadership role in forming public opinion in favor of decriminalizing marijuana?
I would take a leadership role in ensuring that we're dealing with all of our issues from a balanced approach. Now, the legalization, decriminalization, that's all a federal government responsibility, and that will remain a federal government responsibility. What I advocate for and have for many, many years is take the balanced approach to once and for all deal with these issues so we don't have this negative impact on society and these gangsters aren't getting away with certain things.
Gabriel, your position on decriminalization, legalization of some drugs?
Well, I have been reading a lot of news commentary, and especially when you Google Cash Heed with the word drug behind it, it comes up with a lot of articles, a lot of his commentary on the Senate and in different media. And my position is I'm dead against legalizing any of the hard drugs, because I don't believe legalizing drugs would help resolve our crime problem, because the thing is, well, how many kind of drugs we want to legalize? Other than, well, marijuana, cocaine, or heroin, crystal, well, those gangsters would create some more new and dangerous drugs. Even, well, we could legalize all of them, well, there are a lot of other criminal activities like prostitution, gambling, kidnapping. In some places, they even fake counterfeit medicine and food. I think damaging will be even much bigger.
Well, let me just correct something there. You said you Google Cash Heat. Yes, you Google Cash Heat, and you see that Cash Heat is a problem solver. Cash Heat is not afraid to take on issues and try things that have been proven to work. So let's just correct that to make sure we have that term correct.
But at the same time, other than legalizing drugs, you also said that the increased enforcement efforts have actually had a paradoxical effect. What this means is that you don't believe increased enforcement. What it means is you think that increasing police enforcement will make the matter worse.
That was an article that was actually published in the International Journal of Drug Policy that I looked at the balanced approach. And the question is, if enforcement was not working, what are the options? And it talks clearly how we have to have that strong enforcement. So let's get the facts correct on the table here, Gabriel, versus going in there. Your listeners can Google that. If enforcement's not working, what are the options? International Journal of Drug Policy, and read the entire article.
And Jodie Emery from the Greens, I need to give you a chance to get in here, too.
Well, this is almost ridiculous. You can't go halfway. We have sort of a halfway method here in Vancouver where marijuana use is pretty much tolerated. There are still arrests. But this is the fact. In alcohol prohibition, the gangs were killing each other over the alcohol. Booze was made in basements where it exploded or was made so strong it could kill people. There was no regulation whatsoever. If we continue to put people in jail, gangsters in jail, not only will it be turf wars and violence over the position that is now void, but when that gangster goes to jail, they have a recruiting ground. People in prisons have access to drugs and they're able to recruit members in gangs. And once they are released, they stay in that criminal lifestyle. We can't go halfway on this. If the drugs are dangerous, we need to get them out of the streets and away from the children. We need a controlled and regulated and taxed system. The more harmful something is, the more reason for control. And just because something is dangerous doesn't mean we need to put people in jail for it. Red meat is bad for you. Sugary foods are bad for you. There's a lot of things out there that are bad for you. We need a different approach, and ending prohibition is what the Green Party believes in, because we can't go on building prisons, hiring police officers. The United States is an example of a failure of the drug war.
I have trouble understanding, though, how legalizing or decriminalizing marijuana would do anything about gangs in this country, in this province, because the reason gangs make money on marijuana isn't because they're selling to the local market. They're selling the biggest export market in the world, the United States.
Absolutely.
They're not able to legalize it.
Well, actually, the United States is looking at progressive policies. They're looking at repealing their mandatory minimum sentences, which have bankrupted their states. It's put 1 in 100 Americans in prison. The drug war has failed. The Mexican cartels are infiltrating the border, and they're feeding this market because it's illegal, because there's so much money. And if you reduce the supply, the price goes up, the risk goes up, and the violence goes up. This happened under alcohol prohibition. It's deja vu. And even if drugs are harmful, again, that's more reason to regulate it, to take it out of schools, to take it out of the streets, to cripple these gangs financially. Their main source of income is drugs, and we need to repeal prohibition if we really want to cut down on the gang violence.
You have to realize you're right, Jody, in that these gangs made an insurmountable amount of money during the prohibition years. But we have to remember, when the Volstead Act actually came to an end after 13 years, these gangs got involved in other things, and it was around drugs where they started to make a phenomenal amount of money, tenfold, 20-fold more than they did under alcohol prohibition during the drug prohibition. So what I've said is, even if let's just say it'll never happen in my time that we actually regulate these drugs and legalize them. I can tell you that. Society will not go that way, and we have to respect that with society. But I can tell you, if it ever did go that way, these gangs would get involved in some other commodity to make an extraordinary amount of money. So we have to look at this comprehensive approach to ensuring that we deal with these gangsters, because they will move into something else. It has to be balanced. Everything in life has to be balanced in order for us to get ahead of these problems.
But there's nothing else that makes as much money. Even if they went into prostitution or sex slavery.
Medicine can make a lot of money.
Well, yeah, and even if they went into these other markets, it's not as much money as there are in drugs. And right now we are spending millions of dollars in law enforcement, in prison time, in court time. That's a lot of money that could be better spent going after kidnappers, identity theft, all these violent crimes that are going on. And additionally, the millions of dollars these gangs are making could be transferred into the legitimate legitimate economy from the underground. We would have an enormous financial boon because of ending prohibition.
But then let's just realize that, yes, fine, we need to do some of these things here, but the most important thing we need to do here is prevent people from getting involved in using drugs to begin with.
That's interesting, because when you are West Vancouver chief, you cancel a DARE program.
That's right.
The DARE program is to educate you the danger of drugs.
Understand. Just read, Google again, sir, Google again, and you'll find out the ineffectiveness of the DARE program, where in fact you look at how much this particular program has actually been evaluated. It's a popular program, but it's not a very effective program. In the same sense,
it's better than none.
I came to West Vancouver and I said, let's develop a comprehensive and coordinated program.
You quit in 1.5 years.
That serves, oh, come on.
Let's come back with more.
Let's stay on the high note here. Let's not get into your sneering, okay?
Come back
no, it's not. It's the record. It's your record.
It's the debate between the candidates in Vancouver Fraserview. Jodie Emery for the Greens, Kashid for the Liberals, Gabriel Yu for the NDP. I'll open up the lines for your calls at the bottom of the hour. This is Christy Clark. You're on the Chorus Radio Network. I'm here with the three major candidates in Vancouver Fraserview. Gabriel Yu is a New Democrat, Jodie Emery is a Green, and Kashid is a BC Liberal candidate, all of them seeking to become the MLA for what will likely be a very hard-fought riding. Is it fair to say, Gabriel Yu, that crime is the number one issue for voters in your community?
One of the three. The other is economy, as well as who would be the best representative for the riding. That would be Trimby and Kashid.
So let's talk about the economy for a second. In particular, the NDP promised to raise the minimum wage by 25% if you're earning $6 an hour, by 66%, or $8 an hour, 66% if you're earning the training wage. You've got a lot of small business people in your riding. What are they telling you about that?
No, I'm a small business myself, too. I run free retail shops. So I'm a retailer, so I know about that. Well, on one hand, as a small business person, I don't hire a person because that I don't need, because the minimum wage is lower. I won't waste my money. Any businessman won't waste the money. But at the same time, by increasing 25% wages to the lowest paid working people, these people will spend that money to small businesses, to the local economy. And I think we could count on that would have a stimulus effect to the economy.
But Gabriel, you know that it won't just be the people who get $8 today who'd go up to $10. The people who are making $10 today would have to go up to $12, and the people at $12 would have to go up to $14. It's not going to be a small impact on small business, is it?
No, first of all, I saw on the television CTV interview economists, and I also read some well-known economist studies. There is no indication that increasing minimum wage would harm the economy. Take a look at Ontario. Take a look at Alberta. Ontario has a big jump in minimum wage.
There is. Matter of fact, professionals in this area have come out and said raising the minimum wage, it would equate to almost a 20% tax increase for small businesses, and the job loss would be phenomenal if we were going to do that. Now, let me just give you an example of a fellow that I met when I was out canvassing. He has a small repair business. He hires young people and pays them a wage in order for them to get on the straight line, so they don't get involved in any of the street crime activities, so they have a job just working around the shop, washing cars. He said to me, and he's been through the 90s, he was through that tumultuous time in the 90s, he said to me that if they raise the minimum wage, I have to lay off all these kids that I'm trying to get back on track, and I'm seriously going to consider closing my small business that I have in
it is very interesting, because last time when we were in CBC Radio, you talk about social ill. Think about a working family.
Variety of issues.
Think about working family who make $6 or $8 an hour. They have to work 2-3 jobs.
We want to keep them working, though.
Yeah,
we want to keep them working.
We already lost 80,000 jobs in this year. Do we have anyone working?
It's wrong.
It's wrong again.
In the last 3 months, because of the downward turn in the economy, we've lost 60,000. But over the 8 years, we've created 300,000 jobs.
Well, the Green Party supports moving taxes away from income and payroll and onto consumption tax, so that there's more money being paid for the harm you do to the environment, and people can keep more of their income, because instead of raising minimum wage, which will result in job losses because small business owners would not be able to afford to keep their employees and would work themselves instead, we would move the taxes away from income, so people would be able to keep more money, and that would be more incentive for people to hire and maintain their workforce.
But that is interesting. Well, the economists did studies, and this is not the outcome. And I'm a small business person. I have 3 shops, and I have over a dozen employees. Increasing minimum wage doesn't have much effect on my business.
Has a major effect. The small business people are telling me when I go to the doors that it'll have a significant impact on them. And the experts are saying that there'll be a 50,000 job losses. So we need to keep people working. That's what's going to generate the economy, creating jobs, keeping them
about
working.
Increasing business costs, how about the carbon tax and also the hydro rate that has been increased again and again?
Well, I'm hoping we have an opportunity to discuss that.
Let's talk about that after we go to the news. I'll also open up the lines for your calls. We're having a debate today between the candidates in Vancouver, Fraserview, Jodie Emery for the Greens, Gabriel Yu for the NDP, Kashid for the Liberals. Your calls at 604-280-9898, star 9898. Coming up after the news, this is Christy Clark. You're on the Chorus Radio Network. I'm here with Gabriel Yu, Kashid, and Jodie Emery. Each of them is representing their respective parties in Vancouver, Fraserview, a riding that could be very close. Could be one that determines who gets to be in government if this turns out to be a close election. Welcome your calls to all of them today. We're talking crime, we're talking the economy, gangs, all of the issues that are out there, the environment, all the issues that are out there for you as voters across the province. 604-280-9898. Star 9898 on your cell phone, 1-877-399-9898. Hello, Bob.
Hello there. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the BC ambulance paramedics are on strike. Our last contract was 0002. We were told at that time, tighten your belts because we're going to make it up for you next time. Well, next time is here, and we've been offered 2-0 and 0. Right now, the BC ambulance service... we have one of the highest UHUs, unit hourly utilization in North America. Our guys and girls are run off their feet constantly. There's 3,000 members in this province. It is time for the government to step up, give us a good offer, something that we can all live with. Mark Brown was appointed as an arbitrator. He walked in, went, no, you two are too far apart, and walked out. That's what arbitration from this government is. We asked for binding arbitration, and you know what the government said? No, we're not going to have binding arbitration. And why not? Because they knew that if they got binding arbitration, that we would get something of a reasonable contract rather than this 2-0 and 0.
Kashid, I'll put that one to you first because you're representing the government today.
Well, let me tell you, I'm not quite representing the government yet. I've been a member of Protective Services, so I understand some of the issues that this individual is referring to here. I'm not that familiar with this particular issue, and my last understanding was they were making some progress on it. I have a feeling they'll be able to come to some agreement at the end, and I hope that they work within the system to reach.
So far, the progress has been, the LRB has said to us, you cannot have a picket line. I go out and stand in front of Ian Black's office, and I cannot even have a sign that says I'm on strike. I can only have an information line. They have handcuffed us every time we turn around because the LRB is a puppet of this government, and they do whatever the government tells them to do.
Well, I've met with your people. They were in front of my campaign office, and we had a nice little conversation, and they were going to get some information back to me, and we were going to sit down and have a meeting. So I think after I sit down and have that meeting with them, I may be more familiar with your particular issues. But I understand where you're coming from, and we have to work on bringing this to some type of fruition over the next little while.
Jodie Emery?
Well, the hard times are coming, and although I support the right for unions to strike and to petition for better wages and such, we all need to sacrifice a little. There's not an unlimited government bucket of money. We need to reprioritize where the spending is going, and although a lot of people may feel that they are not being properly paid, there are hard times ahead. We are in a difficult economic situation, and everyone needs to make sacrifices. A lot of these wages are perhaps a little too high, but everybody always wants more money. But, you know, in these times, the Green Party encourages everybody to pitch in, to sacrifice, to realize that we all have to move ahead together, or a lot of us will fall behind.
Jodie Emery, you surprised me with what a fiscal conservative you are.
I guess so, but the Green Party advocates for that. I mean, we can't just keep throwing money at any problems. And again, the world is going into a serious downturn, and we have to be smart about it. And even though we would all like to keep growing and growing and growing, we can't. And the Green Party supports having a stable economy where it's not unlimited growth, but where we're at a comfortable, stable state where we can all just survive.
Gabriel, you?
I don't have any information from our party perspective. It's not on our platform. But from what I heard, I don't think this is fair, especially 002. Just because paramedics is considered recognized as an essential service, that means they cannot go on strike. Doesn't mean that we could exploit this element and then give them no say in terms of raising their money, their wages. So I would think that arbitration is a way to go.
Let's get James on. Hi, James.
Hi, Christy. Hey, Cass, this is for you. Nothing's going to happen in your lifetime if you don't step out and try and make it happen. And I guess my point is that we spend an awful lot of money on criminals, and you're saying lock up the right ones. And we're saying as people, stop locking them up. Why don't we just take away and recognize prohibition fails, get rid of it, do what Portugal did. Portugal got rid of drugs as being illegal. They went for decriminalization. And they've seen a drop in every single area of importance when it comes to crime and health. We can see the same here, but we need people like you to step up with your police experience, point out that health is the issue, not criminality. Stop spending money on it. And by the way, these guys won't go back into other businesses if you do a good enough job. Cut off their supply, and there won't be these kinds of vicious gang wars going on. You're not doing anything to stop all the shooting going on out here. How about stepping up to the plate this time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe in stepping up on the plate. I've always stepped up at the plate. But what I'm going to tell you right now is these gangsters are out there, and they're causing havoc on our streets right now. We need to interdict them, and we need to put them away. We need to create that short-term effect right now. The Vancouver Police had a very, very successful project yesterday in taking down a group of gangsters. We need more of that. We all
agree that you need to bring them down, Cass. There's nobody disagreeing with that. Everybody wants you to do that. But at the same time, we want you to cut their legs out from under them going forward. And you're not recognizing that. You're coming up with a lot of waffling on these issues.
Absolutely not. I'm not waffling. If you look at it, it's been consistent. Where I'm advocating for that balanced approach, and I'll continue to advocate for that balanced approach. Whether it's hiring more police officers, having more prosecutors that are defined to this particular problem, having facilities to lock these people up, sending criminals back to where they came from through the Con Air program, having the appropriate laws on our books so we can enforce it, taking away their proceeds through a civil proceeds process, dealing with their bail conditions. I'll tell you, we need to create more stability out on our streets right now. We need to saturate, we need to stabilize, and then we need to problem solve and go to the long-term solutions overall. And that's what I'm bringing to the table.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see more violence in the coming days because of these crackdowns. These gangsters have been arrested. There's now a job opening. There's a lot of money to be made, and there is turf to be fought over. So I hate to say it, but we will see more fighting and struggling for control of this territory. It's not going to stop the problem.
Absolutely. And I've advocated for that balanced approach because the void is easily filled by many people that go down this particular road. That's why I've said from a long-term perspective, you have to start investing in our youth, ensuring that we have the staples in place so they do not go down this particular road.
People will always try
sounds like, Mr. Heath, you have been living in a foreign country, a different province. Our crime deteriorate under your watch. This is your record.
Actually, the people that are getting involved in this activity right now, we had an opportunity to deal with them in the 90s when the NDP was in power, because these are the kids that all of a sudden start to look at this lifestyle, look at that as a way they wanted to go. They were running around the schoolyard saying, that's who they want to be, that's who they want to be.
In 2001, BC only got 10 gangs. Nowadays, we've got close to 129 gangs. It's under your watch when you are senior police officer.
This is
Are you denying that?
This is what
your calls to our candidates in Vancouver, Fraserview, Cash Heath, Gabriel Yu, Jodie Emery. This is Christy Clark. You're on the Chorus Radio Network. Your calls to the candidates in Vancouver, Fraserview, Cash Heath for the Liberals, Gabriel Yu for the NDP, Jodie Emery for the BC Greens, 604-280-9898. Hi, Mark.
Hi. The Chicken W great debate's now over, and Greenie Jane Sturck's strategy's become obvious. She's working with her new Green leader, Gordon Campbell, to defeat the NDP. During the debate, she directed her most vicious attacks at Carol James. She had glowing compliments of Green leader Gordon Campbell for his utterly ineffective green tax. It's just like her Green leader Ralph Nader, whose 5% split the progressive vote and gave us 1 million dead Iraqis, 8 years of environmental destruction in the 21st century Great Depression. Emery here, by splitting the progressive vote, wants to give us an uninterrupted Liberal dynasty. Earlier this week, one of BC's few peer-reviewed, published, active working environmentalists, Alexandra Morton, stated on this station, I personally, and this is a quote, I personally don't think the salmon are going to survive another Liberal term.
Jodie Emery, you're splitting the vote, he says.
I recognize this gentleman. He's been a follower online, posting comments, and boy, I sure wish that the Green Party got funding from the Liberals like this gentleman has claimed before. The fact of the matter is the Liberals and NDP are attacking each other constantly. Their policies are not that much different besides the controversial carbon tax, and the Green Party actually has solutions. And although I guess you could say that we might take votes from the NDP, as Jane Sturck, our leader, has said, we will also take votes from the Liberals. We'll take votes from anywhere they can come from, because the Green Party has ideas that everybody can look to. We have solutions. We aren't about criticism and attacking others. We're about offering ideas that can really move us forward.
Jodie Emery, which of those two parties do you think has a better platform on the environment?
Well, I would hate to say it, but I think the Liberals might. The NDP has abandoned their base. A number of environmental groups, David Suzuki included, have said that the NDP has abandoned their base. And Carol James spent Earth Day flying in an airplane. I don't think that's a very good statement for the Earth.
Well, as a commentator, I can't recall when was the last time I praised the Liberal Party. But this time I really have to express my admiration on the Liberals' spin doctors' capacity. They can turn the most hated carbon tax into an issue for their advantage. Think about it, especially recently when we heard from the...
Most hated. We've got people, experts out in the environment coming out and telling us how good and how they support it.
Well, the National Roundtable on the Environment have already ruled out carbon tax. And also, the actual figures from last year also indicated it has no effect to the reduction of greenhouse gas.
About the carbon tax. We have to reduce our carbon footprint here.
Yes,
we have to make sure, thank you, we have to make sure we have clean air and clean water for our kids, for our grandchildren, for their families. We need to make sure that we do something responsibly and take the lead here in order for us to deal with this problem.
But is carbon tax the solution?
Absolutely, because
is raising carbon tax 300% in a recession a good solution for the economy?
Reducing your taxes, it goes back into putting more money in your pockets, and we have a lot of support from experts with respect to this carbon tax.
Robert, hi.
Oh, hi there. I have a question for Mr. Heed, if that's okay.
Of course.
Okay. Mr. Heed, you were recently the head police officer in West Vancouver.
Yes.
And you got rid of the police liaison program in the high school, so the kids over here, their first encounter...
we didn't get rid of them.
Well, that was a big issue here in terms of having police in the school so that the kid's first encounter is a positive one and not a negative one.
You're mistaken, sir. Your facts aren't correct. What I did is I got rid of the DARE program because it was ineffective and it was using up the officers' time dealing with this program, which I have studied, I have researched, and I had them work on, and they're working right now on a comprehensive program to ensure that we're delivering appropriate services to our children from K to 12. And I'm certain they're going to come up with a very, very comprehensive program in the very near future. Matter of fact, the school liaison...
There's none right now.
No. The school liaison officer program is still in effect in the West Vancouver. If you phone the current chief, Jim Almus, I'm sure he'll explain it to you.
Now, Kashid, in a related question, this comes from Bill, who I think lives in your riding, although he's not quite clear about it. You quit after serving 1.5 years of a 5-year contract, and he says you're being paid still until May 19th on that contract?
Incorrect. Again, misinformation that's out there right now. Under employment standards, there were certain fees that were owed to me when I left the West Vancouver Police Department, and with a contractual agreement that I had, the board decided to pay me out for the last 3 months versus having me work for the last 3 months. So I'm no longer on the pay.
Means if they don't waive you, you are supposed to work until May 19th, isn't it?
Well, no, but there was a plan in place in order for me to use accumulated leave. And I don't want to get in and talk about this because it was a contractual agreement that was negotiated before I even took the chief job in West Vancouver. And part of it was to deal with some of the employment standards with respect to my annual leave.
Gabriel Yu is the NDP candidate, Jodie Emery, the Green, and Cash Heed, the BC Liberal candidate in Vancouver Fraserview. Welcome your calls, 604-280-9898. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Christy, how you doing?
Hi, thanks.
Good. Mr. Heed, I'd like to ask you if you will call for the dismissal of the 4 RCMP officers at YVR. Somebody's got to show some leadership here. The RCMP could do themselves a big favor in the public mind and get these guys out, quit trying to cover it up, and get our confidence back. And at least the Green Party has got a policy on this, and we don't know going forward how we're going to police our streets.
The Braidwood inquiry is ongoing, and I'm sure Mr. Braidwood is going to come out with some good recommendations, and that's what we would have to seriously explore after his inquiry is finished. I'm letting the process go. I'm not going to comment to the end of the process, and if I'm successful and I'm elected in Vancouver Fraserview, I'll have an opportunity to comment, but it'll be after the Braidwood inquiry and the recommendations are out. And I respect Mr. Braidwood, and I'm sure he'll come up with some good recommendations.
So let's not talk about Braidwood specifically. Let's talk about the RCMP in general. You've been an advocate for regional policing, which would mean getting rid of the RCMP in the Lower Mainland. Are you still an advocate for that?
I've been an advocate for a better way of delivering police services, whether it's with the RCMP, whether it's with the integrated units, or whether it's with the current system we have with all the other municipals. What I said from day one is we seriously have to consider whether a different style of policing would be more appropriate and serve the citizens of Metro Vancouver better than we have right now. If there's a better way to doing business, we need to explore that. And I've said that from day one. We need to seriously consider whether there's a better way for us to deliver a more effective police service for all of Metro Vancouver and for British Columbia. And that's what I've said from day one.
But how's the Liberal position? Because last time you mentioned about that, you were being criticized with derogatory comment by the very high-ranking Liberal cabinet ministers.
We are on the same page with what has to be done. We're continually looking at better ways of delivering a police service. You know, the Liberals have done a lot in the last while. The 1,100 extra police officers.
Do you really believe increasing enforcement would help the fighting crime?
Absolutely. You need to police a lot smarter and using the resources and policing a lot smarter.
So why would they cut over 100 prosecutors in the budget?
Dedicated police prosecutors that better understand what's going on, and they're applying to deal with this gang situation that we have. When we talk about it, secure facilities that we need to house these gangsters, to house these prisoners, and what needs to be done. When we advocate for the changes to the criminal code, such as a 2-for-1, I can tell you it was Wally Opal.
It's easy for you to say that, but take a look at Frome's speech released in February. Over 7,000 words, not a single mention about crime fighting.
Let Jodie Emery get in here before we have to go.
Gabriel.
The Green Party believes that the RCMP should be replaced with a BC Provincial Police Service. And we say service instead of force because they should be serving the people, not forcing their will upon them. Also, a BC Regional Police Service would be, or BC Police Service and regional policing would bring back the accountability to in-province. My aunt and uncle and grandfather were all RCMP officers, and they all left because they were disappointed. The RCMP is pretty much a standing military here in Canada. They are part of the military across our country, and we should bring policing back to our province, back to focus on our issues, and then we could make policing for drug law a lowest police priority.
On that note, I have to say goodbye and thank you to our 3 leading candidates in Vancouver Fraserview. I hope it helped you make some informed decisions about the election that's coming up. Cash Heed is the Liberal, Gabriel Yu the NDP, and Jodie Emery the Green Party candidate.